On January 10th, USA Today released an article that was called "What the Public Keeps Getting Wrong About Pedophilia." Now, due to some backlash, they reworked it a little bit, they re-edited it, and they edited it back a day later on January the 11th, and they rechanged it to the complicated research behind pedophilia. And it's an article that's really about, hey, let's make you understand pedophilia. Let's make you understand it. Now, I'm going to go through the article just a little bit here, and I want to break it down. And the reason being is, remember, my whole purpose is to look at the foundation. Does the foundation of what they're saying make sense? Is it true in all circumstances? And so they're going to, in this article, they're going to make excuses. I'm going to call them excuses because that's really what they are, for the existence of pedophilia and what it is and what people keep getting wrong. So this article, what it does, and this is USA Today, it defines pedophilia, and it's even going to say, okay, where does it come from? And then it's going to say treatments. It's going to say, how can we help it? And the reason I think this is important is because every argument that they use for pedophilia about 20, 30, 40 years ago was used of the homosexual agenda. Every single one. But in accordance with the agenda today, even this article won't make sense. You're going to see how there's double talk, how there's no firm foundation for it to stand on. So let's work through this article a little bit from the USA Today. You can look it up. The complicated research behind pedophilia. So bring it up here. Here it is. Pedophilia is viewed as the most horrifying social ills, but scientists who study the sexual disorder say it's also amongst the most misunderstood. Now, if you notice right there, the very first thing it's calling it is a sexual disorder. That's what it's calling it, a sexual disorder. Then it goes on. It says, when most of the public think of pedophilia, they assume it's synonymous with child abuse and a pervasive social problem that has exploded to the crisis level online. Researchers who study pedophilia say the term describes an attraction, not an action. Using it interchangeably with abuse fuels misconception. So what are they doing? They're trying to separate the two things. That pedophilia, if you look at it, it's an attraction. It's just one of many possible attractions. Just like, and this is going to be unpopular. I've never cared about being popular, but just like this idea that homosexuality, if a guy's attracted to a guy, that's just an attraction. If a girl's attracted to a girl, that's just an attraction. If a guy's attracted to both, that's just an attraction. If a person is attracted to the dog, oh, wait, we can't count that one. Although I believe there is somebody in New York that is posing that they should be able to marry their dog. And you can see these things, and you see the problem. It's just an attraction. Just because it's an attraction doesn't mean it should be destigmatized, doesn't mean it should be put out in the open. Because if this is allowed, then what else would be allowed? And that's part of the issue that we have to do. And so let's go back. Let's continue to look at they define it. The American Psychiatric Association Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders said pedophilia is defined by recurrent, intense, sexually arousing fantasies, sexual urges, or behaviors involving sexual activity with a prepubescent child or children. Yeah, well, that's actually what it is. But again, the problem is, what are they doing? They're dividing the attraction from the action. This is the exact same thing that's been done. Now, I'm going to be honest about this here. In the realm of Christianity and those who want to help people who are struggling with same-sex attraction, this is what is often done as well, saying you're not necessarily this. They'll say you may suffer from homosexual attractions or same-sex attractions, but you're not classified as a homosexual until you act upon it. But what they've done is they've made it an identity. It's kind of like, what, are you going to attend Pedophiles Anonymous, say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I'm a pedophile? It's just who I am. I don't act on it, but it's who I am. But you see, it's the destigmatization of it. And I've seen this before, and they will make mention of this in the article a little bit later. But it's this idea that, hey, it's who they are. They can't help it. And so we need to destigmatize it. And they're really going to make a connection here. They're going to say that not all child molesters are pedophiles and not all pedophiles are child molesters. Now, I'm going to partly agree with that, because not everybody who's suffering from pedophilia is going to act on that. So they wouldn't be a child molester unless they act on it. The same as somebody who suffers from same-sex attraction. They're not actually homosexual until they act upon it. As I said, this is going to be the most popular thing. That's okay. But I want to go down in this article and figure out, where does it come from? Where does this viewpoint come from? The pedophilia. If they're that way, where does it come from? And this argument has been seen before, but here it is. The evidence suggests that it's inborn. It's neurological, said James Cantor, a clinical psychologist, sexual research, and former editor-in-chief of Sexual Abuse, a journal of research and treatment. Pedophilia is the attraction to children regardless of whether the person or causes harm. So it doesn't matter where it is. So they continue on that. So it's inborn. It's neurological. I agree with that. Of course, it's partly neurological, but that's not all it is. There's something wrong here. Something has corrupted. But how? Again, where does it come from? Let's see where it is. And let's go down right here. In the front of the article, it says it's not something people choose. It's not something people. So they don't choose to be a pedophile. So where does it come from? Well, Michael Settle, forensic researcher, director at the Royal Ottawa Healthcare Group in Canada. This is also why I'd cover this. I'm Canadian. You say, why would I cover a USA Today in Canada? Well, here you go. It's not just in the States. It's North America. Said there is more neuroscientific knowledge of pedophilia than ever before. MRI research is showing how sexual interests develop in the brain. Now, I'm not going to disagree with that. Of course, sexual interest happens in the brain. A lot of sexual activity is in the brain. One of the major issues, and this is the problem with pornography as well, is like, why does somebody get addicted to pornography? Why can they happen this way? It can happen, one, because of trauma. It can. But typically when it comes to sexual attraction, and you can find it through the explosive use of pornography, where children, teenagers are usually exposed to it usually by the age of 11, 12. That's a scary thought, especially if somebody who's got kids coming in that era and going through it, that they're exposed to it. And their hormones are going, their brain is developing, and what happens is the more that they pleasure themselves to such images and such things, the more their brain gets wired this way. It's very similar, and they've done research on this, that somebody who's viewing sexual imagery and that kind of thing, their brain works very similar when they view it to the person who's on drugs. A person who's a crack addict gets a hit. That kind of thing. That is a problem. So yeah, it's neurological. But the question is, where does it really come from? Well, right here, if you continue down, it says right here, Seto said pedophilia is something people are born with, or at least have a predisposition to. Again, where have we heard this argument? This is the exact argument that people are still arguing about when it comes to such things as homosexuality. Saying they were born that way. And the second you say somebody is born that way, they can't help it, it's not their fault, you should be accepting of it, and this is the danger. This is what they're doing. They're arguing it this way. That pedophilia, you're born this way. That's kind of where they're going. And therefore, they can't help it, so you got to destigmatize it. There's your problem. Right there. Now, in all fairness to this article isn't saying, hey, let's just go allow people to engage in inappropriate relationships with minors and with children. So they do offer a kind of a solution. They offer a kind of a solution. So let's go look to see what their actual solution is. And their solution, it's found here in the article. I won't say it's a good solution, but it's one that's fascinating, especially being here in Canada. And it says, there's a growing support in the field for Walker's point of view. Now, who is Walker? He's mentioned a little bit earlier. His name is Alan Walker. Alan Walker. And he's the one who decided he was going to put out that they should no longer be called pedophiles, but let's call them minor attracted persons. Because the second you rename something is the second it becomes more acceptable. That's what they try to do. You get away from that old thing. You rebrand it. And he's part of an organization that is goes to support these things. And if you look up his name, you'll see that it's actually not what he claims, which is helping them, but it's really messed up. It's a perversion in of itself. So back to the article. Well, Cantor said that there is no treatment that can turn a pedophile into a non-pedophile. Pedophiles can be taught self-control, compulsory strategies, which he said is more likely if they remain under the care of a professional. I'm going to stop right there, especially because in Canada, so their argument is therapy. Therapy. And that's what it says. Their argument is therapy. They need therapy. Here's the problem. Canada just recently passed Bill C-4, which is anti-conversion therapy. And see, the problem is, it's gotten, even anti-conversion therapy has nothing really to do, there are those who are bad, that have anything to do with making a homosexual not a homosexual from their definition. It's helping them, those who desire to suppress the urges, who don't want to act on them. This is the exact same thing. So how can the left say conversion therapy is wrong in this setting because that's who they are? When it comes to LGBTQ, transgender, non-binary, they say you can't do that for them because that's who they are. Yet when it comes over here for pedophilia, whom they're saying, hey, they're born this way, they can't help it, you can't stop them from, yet we're going to recommend therapy. That doesn't make any sense. This is where it shows that their arguments don't logically make sense. So where's this all going? If this follows the exact same path, it is following the path, and as I said, this is both in the United States and Canada, because you got Canadian researchers, American researchers on this, where they're destigmatizing pedophilia, and when you destigmatize it, you begin to accept it more, and they're saying this will never happen, but that's kind of where it's going, whether you like it or not. And so it's just, what are you going to do? You destigmatize it. But here's the thing. It's like when they're struggling with this, their method is deny yourself. But you can't do that. In their logic, that would be harmful. That's the whole point behind the LGBTQ. Stop denying yourself. Be true to yourself. So how can they do this to what they're classifying as minor attracted persons or pedophiles? And saying, hey, they need to deny themselves. It's a bad foundation. See, that's the problem. See, the Bible's got a much better foundation for all this, for we are all sinners. What has happened in all the agendas that they've accepted, that they've destigmatized, be it the LGBTQ, be it non-binary, those kind of things, even up to pedophilia, it is a sexual perversion. That's what it is. So how do we handle these things? We need to deny ourselves. Even earlier in that article, they say, which one of you has never had an impure thought? And they said, you'd be lying. Admit it. We've had impure thoughts, but what do? We don't act on them. We deny ourselves. And so they say you just need to be constantly in therapy. I say we need to be a new creation. And the only one who can make us a new creation is the one who created us to begin with. The foundation of Jesus Christ is the only answer to this, and standing on the foundation of the correct moral code does not lead to the slippery slope of where we are today. And where's it going to end up? Well, it seems like anything goes eventually. And so this is the horrific thing that is being pushed, that we need to be aware of, that we need to see that it is there. And good, decent, honest folk who build on a firm foundation need to stand up and say, hey, this isn't right. But if you're going to argue that the rest of them are built that way, that the LGBTQ is built that way, that it's not a choice, that they're born that way, then you've got to also accept this idea of the pedophilia born that way. And if you're going to say that the LGBTQ can't deny themselves, that's harmful, then you can't say that it's good for a pedophile to do this. It is only when you're on the foundation of Jesus, with the absolute moral standard that is given to us by the Creator, that we say these things are wrong. And when you're struggling with them, seek help, seek therapy, but ultimately deny yourself. And you need to become a new creation in Christ. Hey, I just want to thank you for watching. If you like the content, want to subscribe, like, tell a friend, get the word out. Also, if you want more content, you can follow me on YouTube, on Rumble, or you can even download the Foundation with Steve Teed podcast and Take Me on the Go, found on almost all podcast apps. This couldn't happen without you, and I encourage you, build on a strong foundation.